Now before I show you or flick through the pages with you of the Better Homes and Gardens Christmas magazine, I've got a little bit of housekeeping to do with my flowers. So these are the flowers I've been picking up from the lady who asked for donations for the supermarket gone past their sell-by date flowers. So these I probably got a couple of weeks ago. Red roses, I need to get rid of that water and wash my vase out. And then you watched me put together this bowl of tulips. They're still looking good. But yesterday, apart from that bit of mould, and when I say looking good, from a distance they're looking good. And when I went into town yesterday to return a library book that was becoming overdue, I was feeling, a bit, the weather was a bit grey in November-like. So I thought, why don't I break a rule, and instead of getting the flowers on my way back from the swimming pool on Sunday, I'll pick them on my way back from town. So using again the green vintage bowl that I got from the Penshurst Christmas market. Now, do you remember the first time I used this, I said that if in doubt when you're using flowers is to go for as much as you can afford all in one colour. Well, I put a couple of pounds into the charity pot for these, and I've got 3 different colours of roses, and I think they're going to look fabulous. So originally these were £5.99 each, and then reduced to £2.31, and I think and £1.93 and £1.93. Now I've just cut off the flower food. Be careful when you're doing this, otherwise, like me, you'll nick it with your scissors and then you'll end up with a gluey mess everywhere. And you need to make sure that you look to see how much water you need to go with the flower food. I'm not entirely sure this one says. Usually it's half a litre or a litre. It's a litre, it's a very tiny picture there, so I'm going to have to top up some more water. And what you should do is release your flowers from the plastic before, as soon as you get home. Sometimes I save the elastic band, sometimes I can't be bothered. And ideally, I should have given these flowers the hot water shock. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, leave a note in the comments and I will see if I can find you the video. So I'm going to do this arrangement. I'm going to just do a cut and plonk. I probably won't do it all now, and what I will do though is put a picture of my final arrangement in my free Facebook group, Flower Start World. So if you're not already a member, you can search Flower Start World on Facebook, or you can click the link in the description underneath this video. So that's what I'm going to do. What I'm trying to do, I had this very sort of like an old-fashioned swimming hat version of an arrangement, and I was wondering whether perhaps I could go a bit taller, but I think perhaps this container here is my old-fashioned equivalent of a rose bowl, the glass bowls that had the metal flower frogs in. I think I'm just going to embrace the fact that it's going to look like a 1950s swimming hat when I'm finished. So what I'll make sure I do is that the first lot of stems I put in, I will, aim for a hole. Bearing in mind I've got 3 different types of pink roses, I'm just going to try and distribute them all the way around the edge. So it looks like I've just randomly interspersed them, but what I like to do is layer up. So I'm going to go with these solid pink roses. I've then got a slightly paler version and then a version that looks slightly antiqued. So I'm just going to put one more rose in, and then I'll come round and adjust the camera angle, and then you can tell me what you've been up to too. So let's have a look at the 2025 edition of my Christmas flower arranging magazine. I think this is probably going to be the last magazine, the last American Christmas magazine that I'm going to share with you. The other 2 magazines I bought, I'm not particularly, it's not a lot in them. It's like sometimes you buy a magazine, you flick through it at the shop, and then you get it home and think, oh, why did I do that? So taking a quick cup of tea, I'm trying to lean into these Hygge vibes. I've got black tea and it is a licorice flavour. So there's sort of warming scents and smells, tastes of the Christmas time. So this to Better Homes and Gardens Cottage Style Christmas. Now, if you've been following me for a while, and it'd be lovely if you subscribe to my channel. If you have been following my videos, you'll think, oh, didn't Julie do a flick through video of Better Homes and Gardens just a few days ago? I did, but this one is called Simple and Sweet. And when I looked back at the cover of the other magazine I shared you, the one where perhaps I was being, well, not so much rude, but just saying the sort of brash style wasn't my personal style. That's because this one here is called Simple and Sweet. So I guess if you know you want to go down the merry and bright route, you buy that magazine. And if you know you like the simple and sweet look, it's this magazine. Now, question. I am seeing a lot on YouTube about people putting together a Ralph Lauren style Christmas. Do you theme your Christmases? Are you bothered by the themes? And then some people were saying the Ralph Lauren style wasn't for them, so they were going with Little Women. The Little Women style. I know what Ralph Lauren looks like. It's green, dark green velvet tablecloths. It's crystal ware. It's lighting on, candlelight on the table. It's tartan ribbons, cushions, tablecloths. But what exactly is Little Women? What is the Little Women style? And if you know, let me know in the comments. So I will say that this magazine is much more to my personal taste. It cost $14.99, which I think is probably £11, something like that. And again, it is quite thin, but I guess, let's say 20-25 on it. I guess if you're doing a different magazine for every fashionable theme of Christmas styling, you'd only want it to be thin. Or I would say the magazines I read at home, they might cover a series of styles, but it's all within one magazine, but the magazines are certainly a little bit thicker. Oh, and I've made a massive mistake. I said I was feeling a bit down in the doldrums with the November weather yesterday. So I cheered myself up with my flowers. And then I went to the supermarket, went to one of the corner shops in town, and I bought myself some Christmas magazines, and lo and behold, I was lured by the one that had a free magazine attached. And I took it out of the paper band wrapper and flicked through it. I thought, this looks nice. And I got home and I took my magazine up to bed to read, and I thought, I recognise this. So I've got a free copy of the magazine that I paid £5.99 for a few days ago. So let's start off. Is Christmas blue and white to you? So you started to notice the trends. We talked before about the contrast between orange and blue on the colour wheel. So do you understand what that means? It's a colour wheel, it's got the primary colours, blue, yellow and red. So if blue's at the top and yellow and red are spaced out at thirds, mix yellow and red, you get orange. That makes it opposite on the colour wheel, and therefore complementary colours if you are interested in a bit of colour theory. So I first started noticing blue coming in for this time of the year. Last year when I saw blue pumpkins and blue transfer wear style pumpkins, I saw last year and again this year. I've seen people doing DIY on their Christmas baubles, and in fact I did that last year as well. Get a bauble, paint it white, and then I use paper serviettes, take them apart. They're normally in 3 layers, and then with the top layer with all the pattern on it, you then decide which bit you want and you add it to your Christmas bauble. So there is a very distinct colour theme, but mixed and matched. So even there's got willow pattern here. I think that's willow pattern all the way around to that on there, but this one in the middle isn't. It's got a floral outline to it, and I don't think that's, mind you, I think I can see some trees. Perhaps it's willow pattern as well. But these jugs are definitely different. And then you've got the patchwork little Christmas stockings with tiny bits of dried orange in, and then the larger stockings for presents. So shout out if you see anything you like the look of, and if you want me to take a picture of a page and post it in my Facebook group, let me know, and then you can have a closer look. Or it might inspire you if you're living in America, to go out and buy this magazine. So little details here. Do you hang a door wreath on your Christmas door, or are you going to hang a homemade pair of winter mittens filled with some Christmas greenery and then hung with a green ribbon? Last year, after many years of searching, I have got a pair of white ice skates. I think I'm going to actually put those ice skates outside to weather it a little bit. They are a bit too white and pristine, but I've absolutely loved that look of ice skates that I've seen. You know, isn't that what all Americans do? You put ice skates on your front door. I'm seeing this quite a lot as well. So a Christmas tree, but made out of books. I certainly wouldn't do that with any of the books I actually liked. I'll go to the charity shop and buy some books because you'll absolutely ruin them. Or perhaps you do that when you're reading a book. Do you leave it flat down as your place marker? I've got a bookmark and obviously the spine breaks when you read it, but I don't want it totally ruined. And then these absolutely gorgeous parcels here. Now let's talk about wrapping paper. Every year in one of my magazines, it will tell me how much waste it goes on at Christmas, how many miles and miles of wrapping paper are bought and then thrown away. It was stretched from here to Mars, all the rest of it. And you need to be careful with your wrapping paper as well. If it doesn't, when you crunch it up, if it sort of wants to reopen, it's not recyclable because it's got sort of some plastic element in it. And I think also the ones that have got glitter on them aren't recyclable, so do be mindful of your choices, because we've only got one planet and it'd be quite nice to look after it for the future. So brown paper has been in style for ages with the butcher's twine, the red and white string there, and then there's a bit of hand calligraphy on gift messages. So what you might want to do, and I feel like a bit like my dad when I tell you this is what he did when we were children. We just couldn't understand what he was doing. But he used to recycle paper. So he would wrap my mum's presents up in the colour pages of what he called the Sunday Supplement magazine. But just think about all those online packages you buy from a certain online company and all that brown paper packaging you get. If you get the packaging, if you smooth it out, if you wanted to go a step further and iron it with a cool iron, fold it up, you could have Christmas wrapping paper for free. You could then write on it. You could get ink stamps. You could get your children to personalise each one. But it might be a nice way, your little gift to the environment, by not consuming so much. And then wrapping a decor thing here. I first noticed this in a pub, and they had, they've got all the big pictures making it all look lovely and cosy, and some of them had been wrapped up in wrapping paper and others just had a bow around them. So it may be that if you haven't got space for a Christmas tree or you don't like decorating for Christmas, that you could have a hint of festivity by putting a parcel ribbon around your pictures at home. Beautiful ice, what do you call that when you've got your bottle of wine? Ice bucket, in a bucket with ice. These look absolutely fabulous. And in fact, I had a mould once, a 3-part mould for a bowl, and it was great fun to use. But as I was saying last time, I just don't have that kind of space in my freezer, and it's not cold enough where I live for that to freeze outdoors overnight. But if you've got a huge freezer, this is quite an easy thing to do. Just one container with another container inside, and then you add water and then all your decorative items. Word of warning though, you might want to do it in layers, because everything you put in here will float to the top of the water. So if you want it all to be submerged, you might want to make it a 3-part process to try and get everything to stay, through the whole depth of the container. And then a little tiered tray there. I don't see this at home. I know from American videos I started watching during lockdown, that seems to be quite a thing in America. Is it still, or has it gone out of style? And then some natural toppings there. A little star made out of 5 pieces of twig, is that? How many pieces of twig? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 pieces of twig. That is really easy to make, and I'm sure in one of my Christmas videos I've got details of how to make that. So if you find it first, copy it and paste a link in the comments. Otherwise, I will see if I can look for it. Or the other option is I do have a playlist of Christmas crafts, as well as a playlist for all the flicking through the magazines that I do. So do take a look at that. So we're in Maine now, so a lovely little cottage in Maine with classic wreaths in the window, but no red bow on the top of them. I think they've got, is that a tartan bow hanging down at the bottom? So a much more subtle look. I would absolutely love to have a sledge. I do sometimes see them at vintage sales, but they are, you know, these vintage ones are prohibitively expensive for me, and I don't really know where I'd put it. Probably the only place I could put it would be on my doorstep, and then I don't want anyone else taking a fancy to it. The snow, again, I'm lost for words here. What are these called? It's not snow boots, because those are the snow boots. The things you put your feet on. There's a little hole there. We went to Sweden before lockdown for New Year, the most amazing time, and we wore these, a modern version of these. It's like wearing a pair of flip-flops on your feet, and I can't remember the word. So let me know what the proper word is for these things. All I'm thinking of is, did you ever see Rupert Bear, the cartoon? And then we used to get the Rupert Bear annuals for Christmas. And every time it snowed in Rupert Bear land, it was always sufficiently heavy snow that they all went out on these, I can't remember what they're called, snow feet, snowshoes? Can't remember. It'll dawn on me when I'm packing away. And then again, we talked about the bows being in fashion. So these are all blue bows here, and a very naturalistic look. That is lots of different pine cones hung up, and it looks like I think some of them might be ornaments and some of the natural pine cones, but there's a difference. You know, some look like they've been dipped in white, and some are a bit sparkly, and a bit of a woodland theme there, with a little cutesy owl and some wrapping paper with leaves on it. Quite interested in this. I do have a narrow basket like this, and then these cowbells are quite fashionable at the moment. When I went to the vintage fair at Penshurst, there were cowbells there, and I thought, oh, they look lovely. But when you know that thing where you see a bell, you've always got to rattle it to see whether you like the tone. It was just all fake. They were too lightweight, and the sound it made was just hollow. It wasn't metallic at all. But a nice idea there. Now, blue and white. So here we are back at the cover photo. But that really fresh, I mean, it's a fresh look. I'm thinking this looks like a seaside cottage, but it looks bright and it looks festive as well. And I'm noticing loads of these block tablecloths. First spotted these block tablecloths when we went to the Wealden Mid-Summer Fair at Hull Park, and there's definitely a video about that. If you flick through my list of videos, it might be on my thrift haul video playlist, and I'm pretty sure the thumbnail is of a stately home and a bright yellow Fiat 500, like a sort of old-fashioned bubble car in the front. And I saw this, that was the first time I noticed the batik print, Indian style block printing. Block printing, it's not batik. And I thought, oh, I don't like this. It reminds me of the 1970s. But slowly, these fashions, and they sort of really get into your subconscious. And now I'm thinking, oh, perhaps I could have a Christmas tablecloth that was red and patterned like that. So we'll just have to wait and see. Talking about red and patterned, it's blue. I love that wallpaper. It is very similar to the fabric I've recovered the armchair in my front room makeover. Although mine's got a little bit of green and red in it too. But look at the light, nice sort of dusky, orangey brown ribbons. Again, is this a little bit of, you know, Ralph Lauren? Mind you, I think Ralph Lauren, the tartan he uses is always red. But this looks like a very cosy cottage. With plates on the wall. And then these are some DIY projects here. So these are the little pinwheels we talked about last time. Take 2 book pages or magazine pages, concertina up from the lower edge. Put your 2, do that twice, stack them together, tie string around the middle bit, and then glue the 2 layers together. So you get a rectangle that's glued, and then you lift up these pieces here to make the circle, glue, and these pieces here to make a circle and glue. So what I would strongly advise you do is get clothes pegs as it's drying and just pinch them so the glue holds, unless you use hot glue, but then it gives a brittleness that I don't really like. I normally use the stick glue. So these are little metal DIYs. It says start by, I thought it was really metal. It's not, it says start by adhering a foil cooking sheet tin foil, we would call that here, to cardboard, then trace the pattern onto a sheet. And then what you're doing is sort of gouging out the pattern. Oh, I thought you had to get a specialist metal to do that. But if that's just silver glued onto an old cereal box, might add that to my to-do list. And some lovely ribbons. How are you with your wrapping? I always have the dream I'm going to have this most glorious wrapping. I think I'm sort of getting to that stage in life when perhaps I might make more of an effort with that. When you've got very young families around you, when you're all exchanging presents and you have a huge amount of presents under the Christmas tree, it becomes a case of just wrap, 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 wrap. And you can't do the embellishments, and even if you did, they get squashed by someone else's present as you piled them all up together. But now, with my family getting older and with my wider family, we started to do Secret Santa, more meaningful gifts. And to be honest, do we actually need anything for Christmas when these days you go out and buy what you want when you want it? So I have got a bit more time for those presents for my husband and daughter, when I can take a little bit more effort with my wrapping. And on that subject, do check out Louise Lewis gift wrapping. I'm sure she's got some videos on YouTube. She is a lady who kindly gave a gift wrapping workshop in my Facebook group, at some point after lockdown, and she was very generous with her hints and tips. But you can follow her on Instagram. And this year I saw that she's giving a gift wrapping workshop at Highgrove, which is King Charles III's country house. I should know where this is, isn't it? I wouldn't pass my citizen test. Is Highgrove off the M4 between London and Bath, somewhere in the countryside. And then here, Christmas, these are bottle brush trees. Take them out of their base. There's 6 of them there, glue them together in the middle, hide your glue with a bit of tinsel or a bauble. And then these, I think, are more substantial. No, I think they're made with wrapping paper. I was going to say they were made with cardboard and then with the paper glued on the top. But that would be a nice thing. And in fact, I'm the one after Christmas, when we have our big family Christmases all together, and several of my sisters always have very good quality wrapping paper. So I'm the one there urging people not to wrap, rip through their presents. Could you just undo it along the sellotape line? And then I like to save the fancy wrapping paper, and again, just smooth it straight. You're bound to find a box amongst all the excess Christmas wrappings. Put it in a little box, take it home with me, and then it's great fun to make these little pinwheel decorations. So sometimes I hang them from string to hang it on my kitchen pegboard, and sometimes I put a tiny dot of double-sided tape. And in my kitchen I've got a huge chalkboard, so I have to make it look like a snowy scene. In fact, this year I must draw like a little snowy house, a street or something like that, and I could have these as snowflakes coming down, or perhaps stars in the night time. Now this is something I am absolutely 100% intrigued about. Can you guess what they're made out of? They look like little air dry clay gift tags, but apparently they are sheets of toilet paper which have been wet through, or with a mix of water and glue. So it's a mush. I guess it's akin to a kind of papier-mâché. And then these patterns are indented. They are things like the bottom of drinking glasses, the side of a trifle bowl, something like that. So I was thinking, that looks like such a good project. I wonder whether it's as easy as it looks. But then I'm thinking, I'm not entirely sure that my glassware, actually I've just found something. I was going to say most of my glassware is flat. I'm just looking at my butter dish. I won't show you the bottom plate because it needs washing. But this is something I thrifted from the charity shop. That's the dog having a bit of a moan. But so there is a bit of sort of cut glass there. Oh, I think she wants to go out. Can you hear when she wants to go out? She almost meows like a cat. Let me just let the dog out. There we go. Dog is just seen something in the garden. She doesn't like cats, so she's probably tracing a cat away. So I'm going to go through perhaps my stack of, I'm going to go through my cupboards and see what I've got with the texture. I did see a lot of a lady on Instagram last year, and she did lots of prints. She's not doing a potato print, but she was printing with things like onions she cut in half and celery. So it's a bit like that. It's mark making, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. An artist making their mark. And I am going to start looking for things I've got around the house that have got a mark that I could impress into a wad of wet and gluey glue roll. So it looks like there's some good instructions there. And look here, a little cottage in the country, seek and find a hand-built, stone-clad garden retreat. Oh, how fantastic. It's the perfect setting for a Pennsylvanian vintage collector. Gosh, how lovely. But look inside, isn't it gorgeous? Lovely quilt there, red and white. See, I'm quite drawn to red and white. There's some beautiful crockery here. This looks like, is it, I'm not know, it's glass, whether it's opaline glass or whether it's ceramic ware. But then you look at that one thing that catches your eye, and then you notice the bottle brush tree, and then the bottle brush tree in a tiny pot, and then your eye goes up to the sort of, looks like it's almost like a knitted texture to that vase. And the little stack here, which repeats the colour here, which repeats the colour here. And lo and behold, your eye has been taken all over. Now this looks, I was telling you about the chair I had recovered. My chair looks not dissimilar to that. I think it's the Queen Anne style with little wings. So if I want to have a little snooze, my head goes that way. But mine's definitely got these style legs, and I've got a footstool as well. And my fabric isn't dissimilar. It's a white background with swirls of leaves in a sort of teal and blue and with little red highlights. But I love this light, airy look. Absolutely massive. Is that a doll's house or a doll's greenhouse or something? Huge. You wouldn't be able to get much food on that table. The mismatched chairs, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then just the casual little, by the front door, a little dustpan and brush. So the Christmas's hat, a little Christmas there too. This looks like a Scandi elf. Little round body and a pointed hat. Just a touch of greenery, and then the tartan jacket. Very understated. I think that is what I like. It looks understated, and therefore to my eye classy, not overdone, not too busy. Or there's absolutely loads going on here. Little wooden tray here, it looks in there. They've just been out to the garden, collected some trimmings to put together a flower arrangement. Even the way I love looking at the magazines. In another life, I would think I would have quite liked to have been a stylist. How do you ever become a stylist? What is the route from leaving school to becoming a stylist? Answers on a postcard, please. But I love the way these pictures have been put together. You've got the red of the tablecloth, you've got this red stripe down the back of the Wellington boots, and then you see the red at the back of the ribbon that's hanging up the wreath, and your eye is just making this connection and bouncing around. Much the same as when we put together the flower arrangements. You're wanting your eye to travel all over. I guess this is a framed TV, isn't it? And naturally high for my eye. I don't really like these wood burners either. Blue here, so you know whether you're going for red or blue. Basically telling you what I don't like. Things so opinionated. I should be saying, caveating it all, it's just not to my taste. It wouldn't suit my house. So a very intricate gingerbread house there. Really simple here, all the whites. So it's got the tartan wrapping paper, the red ribbon, white cushion, red cushion, white. It's all quite white, isn't it there? But it looks festive, even if, if I take that Merry Christmas sign out, it still looks as if it's the Christmas season. So here, this looks to me more like a British Christmas tree, although I'm not quite sure any of my friends have got a living room that's white on white on white. So you've got a garland going through. What is that? Is it popcorn that's been threaded through? Oh, white yarn. Oh, it's a fake tree. Well done, Cynthia, for choosing a high quality tree. Cynthia favours a faux tree. She's embellished this one with twinkling lights, white yarn left over from a Halloween craft, and red ornaments. Well, top marks to Cynthia. So is this knitted then? Or perhaps it's crocheted or finger knitted. Loops and chains. See, look, that's quite busy as well, isn't it? white, 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 white. I'm just going to have to let the dog in again. He's giving me a little mini woof. Oh. So what I would normally do when she's been in my garden is to wipe her paws because it gets a bit muddy. But she's going through a phase of not wanting to walk into our living room on her own because there's a sort of narrow corridor, and I think something scared her. And quite often I hear this whimper when I'm in the living room, and I hear this little whimper in the kitchen. I have to go into the kitchen and escort her through this passage, which literally is about 1.5 meters long. So little tiny gingerbread men. These look like French vintage napkins, but the tea towel there, the red stripe, the red bow in the window, so following your eye around. Lots of candlelight there. Weathered and beaten up chairs. I bet they're uncomfortable to sit on. They need a cushion. But so many ideas. So quite often when I go through my magazine, I put a little sticky note in telling me what I was interested in. And it's because I do tend to keep my magazines from year to year as well until I get in a possibly high pile, and then I get rid of them. But it's interesting how your tastes change over time. And you look at your magazine thinking, what was it on that page I liked? Bottle brush trees there. Look, the tree reflected in the mirror. Just a little flash of red on those bedclothes there. So we've got different door wreaths, the frosted flakes, and then the gold, a southern shimmer. We've got some floristry wire here, and rest assured you are not cutting your floristry wire with these scissors, and if you do, you need to make sure that you open the scissors out. You look on, because that's where the strength is in the scissor, it's this bit here. So if you're ever tempted to use your kitchen scissors, and not any, it's pretty for the magazine. My scissors are dirty, I need to cut them. But on the floristry scissors I've got, and you'll find a link to these in the description of the video, it's got this special groove bit where you cut wires. So you'd put your wire in, don't do this at home, children, and cut it there. So I would say if you are tempted with your kitchen scissors or whatever scissors you've got to hand, don't try and cut your wires from the tip. The energy in your scissors is in that bit right at the top there. So we've got a Christmas workshop coming up at Flower Club. So if you fancy it, I'm going to do a prep to show the ladies at club what they could make. So I'm hoping to do a video about that tomorrow. So if you're hanging around and you want some top tips on creating your own basic Christmas door wreath, come back to the channel and I'll show you how. So little red birds are these red cardinals. We don't get them in Britain, but nice red ribbon, lovely frosted little berries there. Easter eggs. Where are the eggs in the? Now we see eggs there. Now you're being a detective. Do you often find that you look at something or you're reading, and Susan did this wonderful thing where she put her plants and juxtaposed them next to the antique window, and oops, that's the dog. She's seen a cat. And then you're searching the picture thinking, where is this thing Susan did? So sometimes the pictures don't match up with the words so easily, but I guess it must be a pretty tricky job putting together the magazine. I guess everyone's got their own job and sometimes it might slip through the cracks. But yes, what have these little eggs, these little quail eggs they look like, got to do with? Obviously you're going to say, well, they're in the bird's nest. I can't actually see them in the bird's nest. But perhaps that's one to look at closely later. And then if you are on the coast, you could go crazy. I don't know if they've got it here, no, but you could do this with old children's toys. All the little plastic tap you get. You could reinvent it and attach it to a door wreath. But notice here, when you look, it's quite sparse at the top and quite heavily decorated here. So that's quite a good use of creating this area of impact that you don't have to have your door wreath packed to the same extent all the way around. And in fact, I think it looks more artistic when you've got this gradation. So this sort of lightness here, and then the visually more interesting bit at the bottom. And also when you are decorating your wreath, just remember it's not just the top sides that need decorating, because I think you might fall into the trap that you're looking at your Christmas wreath from the top and it looks great, but you forget that your Christmas wreath is actually going to stand up. And you can see what they've done here. They sort of imagine that that inner bit of the wreath is like a little shelf. So you do need to make sure your decorations come sort of up and to that inside edge as well, so that your wreath doesn't look as if everything is sort of sliding off the front. Worth thinking about anyway. A little bit of a tip from my pro. Oh, so enchanting, so sophisticated whites, look. Large quantity of roses. And what I love doing as well, oh, loads and loads of roses here. Is that the same vase of roses there? So you often see the flowers work their way around the house as the photo shoot happens. Much more comfortable chairs with their cushions on the top. Lovely sage greens here. That asymmetric look with the Christmas stockings to one side, but balanced visually by the Christmas tree, but also by the tall candlesticks here. So you think if you took any one element out, it would look like something was missing. So again, it's not bold brass, reds and golds, just a subtle bit of green. Look, there's some vintage trays, silver-plated trays in the cabinets, the nativity scene. Now, do you put Jesus in your nativity scene straight away, or do you wait and put him there on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning? Let me know. So putting a wreath up, but putting it up over a picture. So that would have had a suction hook, I would think. A wreath there with the bells hanging down. So it is very classy, isn't it? Very unstated. Oh, behind the scenes. Homeowner and designer Courtney has a few decorating tricks up her sleeve. Napkins to pillows. Courtney loved a set of try saying that 3 times fast. Toile dear dinner napkins. So much she bought them, which she bought extra, sewed them to make 3 throw pillows, and they sit nestled on the family room sofa. So where is the family room sofa? Do you see? Can that fit here? That is certainly toile with deer. Oh yes, I can see a deer poking out at the side. Clever Courtney. Now there is an idea you might want to think about. More the merrier. Courtney will often intertwine 2 or more garlands for extra thickness and use up to 6 garlands in one place. But she's not quite finished. She tucks in natural elements like leaves or berries, creating one seriously bountiful display. I try to really fluff it up with hydrangea and extra stems of pine. Keep it light. Courtney selects lightweight wreaths so she can use a suction cup. Secure them anywhere. Mirrors, picture frames, range hoods, you name it. Well, there we go. Some helpful advice from Courtney. Now, what do? Do you decorate your bedroom? I've seen lots of garlands in magazines across the bed head, and I always think, well, if you turn over too vigorously at night, and you lean over to switch off your bedside light, I can just imagine it all falling down. Again, I just love, it's been put together. What are you noticing? Do you have faux presents sitting there waiting? But my eye goes from here to the Christmas tree, back over to here. So it's a way that the picture tells the story. And perhaps something more easily to do at home, bringing in the branches. Drama comes easy with these striking arrangements. So this is magnolia, glossy green leaves on one side. And then on the underside, it sort of looks like suede, a sort of brown fluffiness with the tiniest of lights. And I think I was going to say they were pomegranates, but they're Christmas baubles. I'm going to have to close that door. I don't know whether we're getting something delivered. The dog is excited. She's probably hearing my husband get up. She knows then that walks and breakfast are coming on. A beautiful velvet ribbon again. So this is Scots pine. These stems of pussy willow, so sort of a sign that spring's around the corner. Lovely trees. Some limes just tumbled into a vase. All looks very doable. And then green chrysanthemums, the bloom chrysanthemums here. with the white amaryllis. They can be quite difficult to arrange with because they've got hollow stems, so don't hold on to them too tightly. And then some berries, I don't know what tree that's from. And conifer leylandii, evergreens. Again, that little tartan parcel with a lovely gold ribbon. And then if you like the reds and whites, that Scandi look. Those ilex berries, I'm guessing. So it's a type of holly that doesn't have any leaves. And then you're picking up on the red here with, that definitely is pomegranates. The red and white mints, we don't do that here in the UK. And are these persimmons? The orange persimmons. And all is bright. So we've got some brown transferware crockery. So those of you in the United States might be using that for Thanksgiving and then for Christmas too. And a little checked napkin with bone-handled cutlery. And again, I prefer this kind of tree. It just looks much more, to me, it's the style I'm comfortable decorating. So compared to the magazine we looked at with the Merry and Bright, where it was stuffed full of huge baubles and ribbons everywhere and huge toppers. So this has got a little topper here. I like the way these chairs have been painted green. Looks like a real sort of garden inspired. Oh, actually, talking about garden inspired, you watch Linda Varta, her channel. She gives great advice on making topiaries. So it's just like, you know, a feast for the eyes, literally. Looks absolutely gorgeous. I think that's probably William Morris wallpaper. And I think, is that got fruit on it, that pattern? Because it's, you know, the mantelpiece arrangement here is sort of talking to the fruit in the wallpaper. And these are the amaryllis before they've opened out. And I think that is hellebore, sometimes called the Christmas rose. And look at that, all those cute dogs dressed up for Christmas. The poinsettia. Is this the chicken house? I think it is. Amy's husband Sean built this farmhouse-style chicken coop for their dozen chickens. I'm laughing because we had chickens and our chicken house didn't look anything like this. And if I'd suggested to my husband that I put door wreaths and gingham bows everywhere, he would have fallen over laughing. I do like this setup. This looks, it's sort of familiar to me. It's sort of a style that I feel comfortable with, although I've never had a house, again, never seen friends that have got such busy wallpaper. It's just the kind of thing you see in magazines. Oh, to be brave enough to do that. I would love to. I don't think I'm very confident with my decorating, so I play safe. So all those reds and whites there. You can just imagine changing out the blanket there for different seasons. Over the fields of snow. Oh, look, I'm back in England here. In the rolling fields of England, a design lover revived a 17th century country home at Christmas. It truly comes to life. Yes. See, I say that, I can recognise that as a British house with the stonework. I don't know, from the Cotswolds or the Yorkshire Dales, but the interior to me doesn't particularly speak of being British. I guess it's just the muted stage, that the muted tones are sort of modern farmhouse style. And I do like a natural Christmas tree, but that is quite sparse, isn't it? Lovely heart-shaped wreath here. Gale Scott. Does it often? Sometimes it says where the people live. Quite interesting just to see which part of the country it is. Northamptonshire, England. So that's a county which is to the north of London. And they're all very pared back and classy. And all dressed up. It's dressed up for the magazine, isn't it? Because, you know, can you imagine where are your Brussels sprouts? Where are you going to put your turkey? It'd all have to come off the table unless they've got a sideboard and they serve from there. Everyone's got a little parcel there, little heart-shaped wreath, little Christmas tree on the stool. All these just tiny details. Collection of white houses, very Scandi looking. Looks like some of them, they normally have holes in the back for night lights, for candles. I don't really like using candles like that, so depending on how big the hole is, you can get those little battery packs with the tiny little lights. I tend to put battery packs, lights in there. And again, a seaside theme as well. By the seashore, this one's called. And then up above, Natural Charmer. This is sort of clarets and golds. Pattern on pattern on pattern, which is fashion at the moment. I've been looking at another magazine and it was talking about the crocheted edge of the napkin. This looks like it's, tufty trimming you might have around the edge of a cushion or a chair. I'm thinking, when I run out of crafts to do, perhaps I could crochet with a fine cotton yarn these little bobbles around the edge of my serviettes and things like that. But it does look festive, don't you think about it though? It's a green placemat and it's got a blue starry plate with then the transferware in a sort of bluey colour, a green napkin, and then it's got a piece of ribbon tied up as a napkin holder. So just having the confidence to put these things together. Although, that cool blue and white theme there, a blue and white delight. Yes, that says Christmas, doesn't it? Again, the layering of the plates. And then sugar pink and everything sweet. And we've got pink nutcrackers. More is merrier. On the two-star cottage style expert, Courtney Allison. She's got an idea or two of how you can take your Christmas decorations up a notch. This just looks gorgeous, doesn't it? Like you've walked into a Hallmark movie. The tree outside, the glow through to the table with the garland and the chandelier. It looks so inviting. Oh, that looks very festive, doesn't it? Grouping together green and red transferware. Soup turenas, serving platters. I wonder if any of that ever gets used. And a little Christmas tree. Bottle brush, that's the word I was looking for. Bottle brush Christmas tree. Is that in a little espresso cup? And then that gorgeous wreath, just casually hanging over the kitchen in her utility room. Here we are up in the attic with the sloped roofs, but we've got a Christmas tree up there, the gorgeous roses on the bedside table. Oh, she's got a book as well. Everything you need to know. French cottage. I'm not reading the words in the right order this morning. French country cottage Christmas. I just find all these magazines quite addictive. I'm thinking, do I need another book? Do I need another book? I like this for the simplicity. Two Perfect Children in red. And some of those red themes. This is amber. And with the tartan blankets and the tartan shirts. I don't like this look quite as much as I like some of the others. What I'm finding difficult is that the chandelier above is quite spindly, and then you've got these tree branches that are also spindly. I just think there's not enough solidity. Perhaps if the chandelier had little lampshades over the top, or the twiggery was slightly chunkier and perhaps laid slightly lower. I'm just getting confusion there, but I bet it looks absolutely lovely in real life. These little candle decorations, but they inside, is that a wire mesh or a clear Christmas bauble? I'm not quite sure. There's lots of lovely details. You almost need to have a magnifying glass so you can see what's what. And then we have again the hellebores and the amaryllis just about to come out into the flower with a casual bowl of clementines or satsumas or mandarins. Who knows the difference between what all those are? See, I much prefer that look in that magazine to this. It's too chunky. Let me know in the comments which direction you're going in. Chunky, well, merry and bright last time, or simple and sweet from this time. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Now, before anyone else gets up, I'm just going to finish this decoration, well, these flowers. Get the flowers in water before I move on to something else. So I shall say goodbye, or perhaps you might want to just sit back and watch and see what my finished arrangement looks like. Oh, there's loads of prickles on these roses. Sometimes you don't get any thorns, and sometimes they've got loads. I'm keeping some of the leaves on, just adding a flash of natural green. And then next to me is my compost bucket. So when it looks like I'm tipping it all on the kitchen floor, it's going into my bucket. And then I will recycle the plastic. Take that back to the supermarket to use something. So this time I'm going to avoid that sachet. So I haven't got one sachet of food, that's all I need. I should save the sachets, but when I used to have flowers in the house all the time because of my teaching, I just ended up with buckets and buckets of flower food. So what I might try and do is just create a little bit of variation with these roses. I've got my swimming hat outer layer, but perhaps I could have some of these roses nestled down a bit lower, just so it wasn't all solid. I don't want it to look like a jelly mould. I want to have a little bit of variation to the arrangement. Just see a gap, push the flowers in, and then if you're cutting your flowers short like this, it will quite amaze you how many flowers you need to fill out the bowl. So that's another reason for keeping the leaves on. Number one, I think it encourages because the uptake of water into the flower head, and it just fills my gaps out a little bit. Some of these petals, well, they're second-hand flowers, aren't they? Really, they're a bit. I need to keep an eye on them. So if I was gifting this to a friend, I would be buying flowers fresh from a supermarket or from my local florist. But I know these flowers are on their last legs. I know that they've been kept outdoors on this lady's porch. It's been raining. The rainwater will have been getting inside the flower petals, and that is why some of them are going, a bit off. A polite word of saying, dying. So it's just having the confidence to use what you've got, to enjoy it for those few days it's going to live. It's I've made my charitable donation, and it'll give me a little bit of pleasure to arrange the flowers. And then just see them en masse. So a nice big pink explosion of colour. So making sure I don't put my scissors into the composting. Lid off number 2. And then my third box of flowers. These ones, actually all the flowers are nice. I think the pink ones are probably the more ordinary, and then the pale ones, but these ones have got like a vintage look to them. Can you see that? A bit more of a colour variation. And again, thorns. But because the thorns are on the lower part of the stem, because I'm only using the top sections, I'm managing to avoid most of them. But just be aware, because you take the mind off your job, and then that is when the thorn will get you. And now I'm just looking for a gap. And because this is in a round bowl, it can sit on my kitchen table, I need to make sure it looks good in every direction. So just move it around. And I'm arranging it standing up. What I will do is when I have my next cup of tea, sit down and look at it. And I might just think from a sitting view, then there might be a gap I haven't noticed, and I might need to just prune and preen, much like you do with your Christmas tree. I might even have to cut some of the flowers a bit shorter if I don't think they're sitting where I want them to be. But there's just a sort of ripple of variation in height across the top. And some of the flowers are quite open. Some of them have more of a, more closed in look. They're certainly not budded, but it's just quite nice to have that interplay of colour. So what I might do when I take the photograph for the Facebook group is perhaps even do a nice overhead shot, so you could immerse yourself in the world of flowers. In fact, those last ones I showed you, I'd say it's almost like a mauve colour to them, like a blue pink. So I have managed to contain most of my mess. that sachet in the front, and I'll just wipe around the surfaces, and then nobody need know I've created a bit of a mess. But doesn't that look fabulous? Well, I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch up with you another time.